everyone. This is the most special place you've come to. I can't believe it myself. This is such a wow. So, first of all, the sign over here says that this is the Lennon John. And here's a picture by John Lennon, and the sign on top of the door says this is not here. But I'm going to show you who is here. Come with me. Look who's here.
I guess you were probably looking forward to meeting Santa Claus or something like that. But I'm sorry if you're disappointed. I'm still just going to be Pat McMahon. And welcome to the Lennon John, my guest bathroom, and the place where I keep all of my Beatles stuff.
Yes, come on in and take a look. This is so fabulous. It's kind of tiny, so you're going to have to look around and see all these wonderful, wonderful pieces that Pat has collected and been gifted over the years. Fabulous, fabulous memorabilia.
And you know, it's probably all began as a result of my being on the radio during the time that the Beatles were introduced to the world.
Yes.
And all of those phenomenal records, those amazing albums. I became a fan and began just simply acquiring these things that are pretty unique, including my shower curtain, which is, in fact, the Yellow Submarine.
Oh my gosh,
Right,
the
well,
Yellow Submarine shower curtain.
Got lyrics of Beatles songs in handwritten, framed memorabilia moments, and it's very, very special because I don't really collect things, but I'm still such a Beatle fan, still love the music, and it never ends.
It never ends. They are forever anyway, just like you are, Pat.
Well, I thank you so much.
Absolutely.
It's better than being temporary.
Right. So take a look. This is a wall, and actually this is a door. So as an interior designer, I will tell you, I have never seen this before. Watch what happens. Let's go into Pat's office.
May I invite you?
Oh, thank you.
Come on. Pat's office, Pat's chair,
Yes.
Pat's desk filled with all kinds of Pat's papers, but most importantly, it's also
It's
the
all
one I share my home with.
absolutely.
Pat's wife,
Yes, here's
Pat's
Duffy
dogs.
McMahon,
Hi.
who's joining us as well.
with Rocky,
Rocky
and
Bijou.
Bijou.
Welcome, all of you. It's so nice to have you with us.
Thank
I'm
you.
so glad you were able to join us. So, let's just sit and talk for a little while, and then we'll show you some more of the memorabilia that's in this office.
I think probably the audience may grow very tired of seeing pictures of me.
I don't think so.
Oh, I
Pat.
have.
Well, that's different.
We've been together 36 years, and that's what happens.
Yes, it's wonderful.
It's
Wonderful.
fun.
How did you meet?
Do the short version.
Short version. I used to be in the executive offices of Mountain Bell. This is the time of divestiture.
And that was the telephone
That
company
was
at
the
that
telephone,
time.
yes, and I worked in the executive offices, and his phone broke. And I took care of executive complaints, and he called my boss, who would be on his show to talk about corporation commission stuff, telephone company stuff, all the things that everybody wanted to know about their phones, and what was going to be happening with the breakup of the telephone company.
And I said, who better to get my phone fixed in my office at KTAR than one of the vice presidents? And he said,
"Oh, here, let me have you talk to Duffy." And so Pat got on the phone and said that he had been on the phone with repair, and I said, "I know, they asked me if you could stay home between January and December, and what do you need done? Let's go with this." So I said, "Give me a number to get back with you, and I'll call you right back."
and how long did it take for you to get it fixed?
About 15 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I
You had a little influence.
Well, that
No,
was
at
the-
that time I worked with all the departments. I was kind of an inter-office liaison and
Wow.
took care of a lot of things, so I knew everybody.
The lady who makes things happen.
Kind of.
That was the beginning of a fellowship that
Oh.
lasted on the phone without ever meeting for over a year.
Really?
About 6 months. Doesn't matter, does it?
No,
Okay.
nobody's counting.
So
I am.
how was that for 6 months? I mean, why 6 months? on the phone before you met?
Because we just had fun together, talking and chatting, and after dates, we would chat and say, "Did you have a good time?"
He would call up and tell me he's shopping for Gerald shoes and different things like that.
So no wonder you were pals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fellowship.
No, great
That's
sense
beautiful.
of humor, though, and this is the short version.
Yeah.
We finally met because she wanted to book me into a telephone company event, a dinner as a speaker and an
Yeah,
MC.
telephone pioneers who did a lot of good stuff with hearing impaired. And so he was going to be our keynote speaker, and we got together to have dinner to talk about the telephone pioneers. And we sat down for dinner and talked about everything but the telephone pioneers.
We began really finding out how much we had in common because both of us have grown up having a very difficult time answering the question, so where did you grow up? Where are you
Where's your
from?
home? Yeah, where's your home?
Tell us about going to school in your hometown. Well, we didn't have one. My parents were in show business.
My parents were in the military.
Yes, and I heard you were born in Leavenworth.
Well, you see, that's
a
where this
story.
interview goes right
Okay,
down.
well then let's forget about
Well,
it.
not only because of the fact that Leavenworth always means prison.
Prison, right?
Right.
But
so-
actually it was a fort to begin with.
Aha.
and so
And then they
everyone,
moved the prison in.
everyone that hears Leavenworth, Kansas, I was only there for 5 weeks, and then we left. My parents were on a South American tour, and so that's the beginning of my life traveling with show business people.
Yeah.
The gypsy life on the road.
Wow.
It was so much fun.
I heard it was a 12-year on-the-road trip.
Well, he didn't go, he was homeschooled until the ninth grade. Then it's the first time he went to school.
Which was 12 years.
That was 12 years,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
right. I was
That's
just
right.
past 12 because, you know, when you're one-on-one with a teacher, whether it's your mom or not, you can move pretty well. Went to a high school in Des Moines, Iowa, because it was centrally located in the United States. Catholic boys' school, very much like Brophy here in Phoenix. Duffy went to
7
a number
different
of
schools.
Really? Wow. So you, was your family in the military or?
No, yeah, military.
Oh, military
I was a Marine Corps brat.
Grew up part of her life in Hawaii and all over the country. So we were really lucky to have traveled, and we had that in common
Fun.
immediately.
That's great. That's great. And then you went to Amherst.
Went to St. Ambrose.
Ambrose.
Yes, Amherst. The
That's right.
problem Amherst has is it's on the East Coast, and I don't like winter. Now, Iowa gets cold, but it doesn't get crazy cold.
No.
So I stayed in Iowa for a while, having gone to high school there, college in the Quad Cities, and then radio and television and the Army.
The Army brought you here.
Army brought me here after the Army, post-military. I came down here to shake the khaki off, and I was on my way to New York because that's where broadcasters go. Except I hadn't planned on falling in love with Phoenix.
Oh.
And so I thought, well, listen, nobody's waiting for me in New York. How about if I just pass my resume around? And lo and behold, Channel 5 said, we need a newsman. And one just left. I walked in and became one. Now, here's where it really gets interesting, because that also was the station that I watched every day at 4 o'clock, because I had discovered the Wallace and Radmo show. And these guys were so funny. They were so clever. The writing was so good. Everything was so contemporary. And so just by coincidence, I wound up at Channel 5 and wound up almost every afternoon sitting in the studio watching the show.
How fabulous.
Until one day,
Wallace said, I inadvertently wrote a 3-man script and there's just 2 of us. Pat, would you like to help out?
so I wound up as the new guy helping out for 30 years.
Wow.
And in fact, a lot of this
Yes.
comes from the days of Wallace and Radmo interviewing Liberace, the Monkees, Mick Jagger,
Michael Landon.
all of those
Everybody
people.
came out of town.
Because everybody wanted to come to the Wallace and Radmo show. And I sure did have a good time.
Isn't that wonderful? And Arizona fell in love with you. All of Phoenix knows who was growing up in those years. And my daughter was one, and I even spoke to a friend who mentioned I was going to see you, and she told me to tell you how you changed her life.
Oh, tell me.
Well, you came to her, you know, the kids all wanted the Ladmo bags and were yelling and screaming for you to acknowledge them. Well, she was very shy, and she was actually sitting with her mother, and her mother said, "Nice girls, don't carry on and make noise." And she was
I wish
very,
mothers wouldn't do that.
I know, but
really
she
do.
did, and she did. My friend is a psychologist, so you see, maybe she needed that. But the truth is that she was sitting there very politely, and you just targeted her. You saw her, and you saw her sitting there, and you must have felt it and seen it in her eyes how much she wanted you there. And you went right to her and gave her a Ladmo bag, and it changed her life. And one of the things she learned was to be polite, and it will come to you. You don't have to act out.
Well,
So
when you see her,
taught her a lesson.
tell her I'm very touched. And it must have been Pat, out of costume, doing that, because none of the characters that I did were gracious, kind, considerate, unselfish, or thoughtful. No, I got to play the people who got the best lines of all. Either a villainous person like Gerald, the little Lord Fauntleroy brat, that continued to remind everybody about his superiority.
Yes.
Or Captain Super, the blowhard superhero that was neither super nor heroic. He was based on all the blowhards that we know, all the people who make promises and never come through. Oh, what, politically? Oh no, it couldn't possibly have multiple meanings.
We're going to fact check this a little bit later.
Okay.
But all of the characters that I did were either losers or flawed, and some of them were even flawed losers.
Wow.
So I loved it. There's nothing more fun than playing a villain.
Yes, and that's not who you are. So you were able to...
I think we should probably check with my wife.
Well, we will. Duffy?
Okay, how many years is it? I am a psychologist. We all have a light and dark side.
Yes, that's
So.
very true. But why do you think that was, that all of them were like that?
Because Wallace made most of them up.
Did he?
No,
Well,
they're-
no, they all did. They all did. So they would say, "Well, we need something like this," and you know, it's to me, it was always a matter of with the guys, what's going to be funny.
that was the only consideration. Is it funny? And we didn't try to create levels of human value like Mr. Rogers or Captain Kangaroo. Those guys did a terrific job for that age group in that category of entertainment. We were comics. We were Monty Python, Saturday Night Live.
Having a good time.
Having a good time, and if we were having a good time and we really were interested in what was funny, as Duffy said, then the audience was going to have a good time.
Yes.
And apparently they did, because the show lasted 10,000 shows.
Wow.
You asked a very
36
interesting
years.
question, though, that was unique, because in the interviews I've done, I haven't ever been asked, that I recall, why I got all of those characters. I think the answer is we had a Wallace who almost always, with very few exceptions, just played Wallace. Bill Thompson, the person, the actor, the performer, the producer, played Wallace, who was the referee. He was the straight man. He was the host. Ladmo, everybody's buddy. That was the character that the kids could relate to. Real, genuine, and a funny guy. But then everybody else. So you've got a hero, and you've got the other figure, Wallace. What you need all of these other elements of humanity. And what's funny is when you show their flaws. Whether it's politicians, actors, singers, or whatever, they were all just a little off-center. And that was terrific for me.
And you taught the kids to laugh about it.
Yes.
Also, and not to take it seriously. And when they did say something or do something that was a little bit like the character, they could see the humor in that.
The only thing we didn't do is ever show any physical impairment or any kind of physical limitation that a child might have and be embarrassed about. For example, crossed eyes, buck teeth, that kind of thing. There's some comics that think that those those physical characteristics are funny. We didn't.
No.
Not if you're a child who
Also-
happens to have those
Yeah.
teeth.
I never made fun of anybody. So whether it was a different culture, nationality, person, race, religion, or anything. So
But we
never
made fun of everybody who was in charge.